You wake up, walk to the kitchen, and eat breakfast alone. Maybe scrolling your phone, maybe standing at the counter, maybe not even sitting down at all.
This feels completely normal to you. But for 300,000 years, no human being ever did this. Not once. Most people assume eating is just fuel, something you do to your body, on your own schedule, whenever it's convenient. But that's a strange modern idea. For almost the entire span of human history, eating alone wasn't a lifestyle choice. It was closer to a crisis.
In 1966, anthropologist Richard Lee spent months documenting how the Zhu-Huanzi people of the Kalahari Desert structured their days. He recorded something that seemed minor at the time, but turned out to be one of the most consistent patterns in every hunter-gatherer society ever studied. Food was never eaten by one person, quietly, off to the side. It moved through the entire camp before anyone's hunger was fully satisfied. When a hunter returned with meat, he didn't own it. Anthropologists call this practice demand sharing. And it wasn't polite generosity, it was law. A successful hunter was expected to give most of the meat away, often ending up with a smaller share than people who did nothing that day. Hunters who tried to keep more for themselves were mocked, shamed, and sometimes quietly frozen out of the group. The insult wasn't calling someone a bad hunter, it was calling someone stingy. This wasn't unique to the Kalahari. Anthropologists have found the same basic pattern across dozens of hunter-gatherer societies on every continent. Meals were shared by default. Eating separately wasn't rude. In many groups, it wasn't even a concept that existed because there was no word for it. So why did food sharing become so deeply wired into being human? The answer starts with risk. Hunting large animals is a gamble. A skilled hunter might come home empty-handed for days, then suddenly bring back more meat than one family could possibly eat before it's spoiled. If everyone shares food today, everyone gets fed tomorrow when your own hunt fails and someone else's succeeds. Eating together wasn't just social, it was insurance. A group that shared food survived droughts and bad luck that would have wiped out an isolated family. But here's what nobody talks about. The sharing wasn't just about food. It was about being watched. In 2003, evolutionary psychologist Robin Dunbar proposed something that reframed the entire meal. He argued that eating together worked like a small, repeated check-in, done multiple times a day, every single day for the entire history of our species. Every shared meal quietly confirmed who belonged, who was trusted, and who still had a place at the fire. Think about what that means. If you ate alone in a hunter-gatherer camp, it wasn't neutral. It was a signal. It meant something had gone wrong. You were sick, in trouble, or being pushed out. Eating by yourself wasn't rest. It was often the first visible sign that your place in the group was slipping. You can still see pieces of this pattern today, in places that never fully let go of it. In much of southern Europe, especially Italy, Spain, and Greece, long shared meals are still treated as one of the most important parts of the day. Researchers studying these regions have found that people there report some of the highest levels of daily social connection in Europe, and many point to the meal itself, not just the food, as the reason why. It's one of the last places in the modern world where eating together is still treated as essential, not optional. So what changed everywhere else? The shift wasn't sudden. It crept in alongside industrialization. As people moved into cities for factory work in the 1800s, families stopped farming together and started working different shifts. Meals that once required the whole household to be present at the same time in the same place slowly became hard to coordinate. Then came something that historians consider a real turning point: the TV dinner. Introduced commercially in the United States in 1953, it was made specifically for eating in front of the television, alone or with barely any talking. Sales exploded almost overnight. Within a few years, the shared table wasn't just optional anymore. For millions of households, it was gone completely. By the 2000s, researchers studying American households found something that would have been almost impossible to imagine in any earlier human society. In many families, no two people ate a single meal together on a typical weekday. Not because of conflict, simply because nobody's schedule lined up anymore. And here's the part that should genuinely concern you. In 2018, researchers at Oxford tracked the eating habits and well-being of over 8,000
100,000 people across the UK. People who regularly ate meals alone reported much higher rates of loneliness and lower life satisfaction, even when they had just as many friends and were just as socially active as everyone else. It wasn't about how many people were in your life. It was specifically about whether you shared food with them. Other research has found that people who eat alone tend to eat faster and pay less attention to when they're actually full. When you eat with others, the conversation naturally slows you down. Alone, that built-in break disappears.
There's also something happening at a level most people never think about. Oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, is released during shared meals in measurable amounts, particularly during unhurried, conversation-filled eating. It's part of why a meal with people you trust can feel emotionally nourishing in a way that has nothing to do with the food itself.
Your body still runs on old programming, built for a world where eating and bonding with other people were the exact same act, happening together multiple times a day for your entire life. We didn't evolve to eat alone. We evolved eating as a kind of quiet, repeated proof that we belonged somewhere. None of this means every solo meal is a small tragedy. Sometimes, alone is exactly what a meal needs to be. But it's worth noticing how much of modern life has quietly rebuilt itself around eating by yourself as the default, not the exception, when for almost the entire history of our species, it was the opposite. So the next time you eat breakfast standing at the counter, scrolling through your phone, alone in a room, think about what your body actually believes is happening.
It's not just registering food. Somewhere underneath the convenience and the rush schedule and the empty chair across from you, an old, ancient part of your brain is quietly taking attendance. And for the first time in 300,000 years, almost no one is answering.